The night is quiet. A soft wind moves across the wide, dark river. The water flows slowly, almost without sound, as if it has all the time in the world. Above, the sky stretches wide and deep, filled with small, steady stars. The land rests beneath them, calm and still. Somewhere along the banks of the Nile, a small village sleeps. The homes are low and simple, shaped from mud and straw. Their walls hold the warmth of the day that has just passed. Inside, families lie close together on woven mats. The air is warm, but gentle. It carries the faint scent of earth, dry reeds, and distant water. Nothing feels rushed here. Time moves differently in this place. If you listen carefully, you might hear the soft breathing of people at rest. The quiet shifting of someone turning in sleep. The distant call of a night bird, low and slow, echoing across the river. This is ancient Egypt. Not the Egypt of towering stone monuments or shining gold. Not the Egypt of grand stories carved into temple walls. But the quieter Egypt. The one that lives in the spaces between those stories. The Egypt of everyday life. A place where most people wake with the sun. Where work is steady and familiar. Where days pass in simple patterns, shaped by the river, the seasons, and the soft rhythm of routine. And as the night slowly begins to fade, something changes. The sky softens first. Black turns to deep blue. Then to a faint gray. The stars begin to disappear, one by one, without hurry. A thin line of pale light forms along the edge of the horizon, far beyond the fields. The river reflects it quietly. In the village, no one speaks yet, but the world is no longer fully asleep. A man stirs on his mat. His eyes open slowly. He does not rush to stand. Instead, he lies still for a moment, listening. Feeling the early morning air against his skin. This is how the day begins. Gently. Without noise. Without urgency. He sits up, the movement slow and familiar. Around him, others begin to wake in the same quiet way. A child shifts. A woman adjusts her shawl. The soft sounds of waking life fill the small space. Outside, the light grows stronger. The shape of the land becomes clearer. The outline of palm trees. The smooth curve of the riverbank. The flat, dark soil that stretches out into fields, waiting. The Nile is everything here. It brings water to the land. It feeds the crops. It marks the passing of time. Its slow rise and fall guides the lives of everyone who lives along its banks. And in these early moments of the day, it feels almost alive. The man steps outside. The ground beneath his feet is cool. The air carries a soft freshness that will not last long once the sun climbs higher. He looks out across the fields, where a light mist still lingers, thin and quiet. There is no need to think too far ahead. The day will unfold as it always does. Nearby, another man walks toward the river with a clay jar. His steps are steady. The path is known to him. He has walked it many times before, in mornings just like this one. He reaches the water and kneels. The surface moves gently as he lowers the jar. A soft ripple spreads outward, then fades. He lifts the jar again, now filled, and pauses for a moment. There is a kind of peace here. Not the kind that comes from silence alone, but from familiarity. From knowing what the day will bring. From living within a rhythm that does not change quickly. Back in the village, small fires begin to appear. Thin lines of smoke rise into the air, drifting slowly. The smell of baking bread begins to spread. It is warm and simple, made from ground grain mixed with water, shaped by hand. A woman kneels beside a clay oven. Her movements are calm and practiced. She does not rush. She presses the dough, turns it, places it carefully against the hot surface. The heat warms her face, but she is used to it. This is part of every day. Bread is not special here. It is constant. Children begin to gather nearby. Their voices are soft at first, then slowly growing. They sit close together, watching, waiting. One of them traces patterns in the dust with a small stick. Another leans against the wall, still waking. The sun rises higher. Its light spreads across the land, touching the tops of the trees first, then the roofs of the houses, then the ground itself. The warmth follows soon after. The day has begun. And with it, the quiet, steady life of ancient Egypt continues. In the fields beyond the village, men begin to walk out in small groups. They carry simple tools over their shoulders. Wooden hoes. Baskets woven from reeds. Nothing is heavy, but everything is necessary. The soil beneath their feet is dark and rich. Not long ago, the river had risen and covered this land. It left behind a thin layer of fertile mud. This happens every year, slowly and predictably. It is a gift that people here understand deeply. They do not rush their work. There is no need. Each movement is measured. Each task is familiar. They bend, press, lift, and smooth the soil. Seeds are placed carefully into the earth. Cover gently. There is patience in this work. They know the crops will grow in their own time. The sun continues to climb. The cool air of morning begins to fade. Warmth settles over the land. The light becomes brighter, stronger, but still soft in these early hours. Back in the village, daily life continues to unfold. A woman carries water from the river, balancing the jar with steady ease. Another sits in the shade, grinding grain between two stones. The sound is slow and steady. A quiet rhythm that repeats over and over. Children begin to play more freely now. They run across the open spaces, their feet kicking up small clouds of dust. Their laughter is light, but not loud. Even joy here seems gentle. An older man sits near the entrance of his home. He watches the movement around him without speaking. His face is calm, lined by time and sun. He has seen many days like this. Many mornings that begin the same way. There is comfort in that. There is a kind of peace in knowing what will come next. The river flows on, as it always does. Unhurried. Steady. Endless. And under the growing light of the sun, life continues quietly, simply, and without pause. The sun continues to rise, slowly and without effort. Its light spreads wider now, reaching deeper into the village and across the open fields. The soft coolness of early morning begins to fade, replaced by a gentle warmth that settles over everything it touches. Shadows grow shorter. The air becomes still. In the fields, the men continue their work in silence. Their feet press into the soft soil, leaving faint marks that will soon disappear. Their hands move with quiet purpose, placing seeds, smoothing earth, adjusting small ridges in the ground. There is no hurry in their movements. They do not speak much. Words are not needed here. Each person knows what to do. Each task has been repeated so many times that it feels almost like breathing. Nearby, a pair of oxen stand side by side. Their bodies are strong but calm. A wooden plow rests against their shoulders, tied with simple rope. A farmer guides them gently, his voice low and steady. The animals move forward, step by slow step, cutting shallow lines into the soil. The sound is soft. Wood against earth. A quiet scraping that blends into the stillness of the morning. Above them, birds begin to circle. They drift lazily through the brightening sky, their wings catching the light. Sometimes they land along the edges of the fields, watching, waiting, searching for small bits of food in the turned soil. The rhythm of the land continues. Back in the village, the pace is different, but just as steady. The fires that were lit earlier now burn lower. Bread has been baked and set aside. Some of it is eaten right away, warm and simple. The rest is kept for later. A young boy sits near the doorway of his home, holding a small piece of bread in both hands. He eats slowly. There is no rush even in this. Each bite is quiet, thoughtful. He watches the movement around him, the women working, the children playing, the distant figures in the fields. Everything feels connected. Nearby, a woman pours water from a clay jar into a shallow bowl. She washes her hands carefully, letting the water run over her fingers. The drops fall softly onto the ground, disappearing into the dust almost at once. Water is precious here. It is never wasted. Another woman sits beneath a shaded area made from woven reeds. In front of her is a flat stone and a smaller handheld stone. She moves it back and forth in a slow, steady motion, grinding grain into fine flour. The sound is soft but constant. A quiet scraping that fills the space around her. It is a sound heard every day. A sound that marks the passing of time. Not far away, a group of children gathers near the edge of the village. They are playing a simple game, drawing lines in the dirt with their fingers. Their voices rise and fall gently, never too loud, never too sharp. One child pauses and looks toward the river. The Nile moves as it always does, wide, calm, and endless. Its surface reflects the growing brightness of the sun, turning from soft gray to a gentle gold. Small ripples form and fade, each one disappearing as quietly as it came. A fisherman stands at the water's edge. He holds a simple net in his hands, woven from plant fibers. His feet are partly submerged in the cool water. He watches the surface carefully, his body still. Then, with one smooth motion, he casts the net outward. It spreads through the air for a moment, then settles onto the water. The ripples widen, then fade. He waits. Patience is part of everything here. After a short while, he pulls the net back in. It is not heavy, but there is something there. Small fish, caught within the woven threads, glimmer faintly in the sunlight. He gathers them quietly. There is no excitement. Just a simple understanding that this is enough. The day continues to unfold. The sun climbs higher, and the warmth becomes stronger. The air grows thicker, slower. Movement begins to change as people adjust to the heat. In the fields, the men pause for a moment. They stand upright, stretching their backs, wiping sweat from their foreheads. One of them looks toward the village, where thin lines of smoke still rise into the sky. There is comfort in that sight. It means food, rest, and shade will come soon. A gentle breeze passes through the land. It moves across the river, through the tall reeds, and into the village. It carries with it the scent of water and growing plants, soft and fresh. For a brief moment, the heat feels lighter. Under the shade of a tree, an older woman sits quietly. Her hands rest in her lap. Her eyes move slowly as she watches the world around her. She does not need to work as she once did. Her days are slower now. But she remains part of everything. She sees the patterns of life repeating, just as they always have. Morning turning into midday. Light shifting across the ground. People moving through their tasks with quiet care. In one of the homes, a young girl helps her mother prepare more food. She watches closely, learning each step. How to mix the flour. How to shape the dough. How to place it against the heat without burning it. There is no formal teaching. Only watching. Only doing. Only repeating. This is how knowledge passes from one generation to the next. Slowly. Naturally. Without pressure. Outside, the brightness of the day begins to settle into something steady. The early softness of morning is gone now, replaced by a clear, strong light that fills every corner of the land. The river continues its endless journey. The fields hold the promise of future harvests. The village breathes with quiet life. And as the sun reaches higher into the sky, the people of ancient Egypt continue their day moving gently, working steadily, and living within a rhythm that has no need to change. The sun now stands high in the sky. Its light falls straight down upon the land, bright and steady. The softness of morning has faded, and in its place comes a deeper warmth. The air feels heavier now, as if it moves more slowly. Shadows grow small and gather close beneath people, trees, and walls. In the fields, the work begins to slow. The men who had been bending and moving through the soil now pause more often. Their movements become careful, measured. The heat rests on their shoulders, pressing gently but constantly. One man lifts his hand to his forehead, wiping away a thin line of sweat. He looks up at the sky for a moment, his eyes narrowing slightly against the brightness. There is no surprise in this. Midday always comes. And with it, this quiet heaviness. Nearby, the oxen stand still. Their work has paused as well. Their sides rise and fall slowly with each breath. They flick their tails now and then, brushing away small insects that drift too close. A farmer pats one of them gently. There is no need for words. The animals understand the rhythm too. In time, the men begin to gather their tools. Wooden handles are lifted and carried with ease. Baskets are set aside. The work of the morning has been done, and the rest will wait. Nothing here demands urgency. They begin the walk back toward the village. Their steps are slow, unhurried. The path beneath their feet is warm now, but familiar. They walk side by side, not speaking much, but sharing the quiet presence of one another. Above them, the sky stretches wide and pale. The birds that once circled freely now rest in shaded places, hidden among leaves or reeds. Even the sounds of the land seem softer, as if everything has chosen to rest for a while. Back in the village, the feeling is the same. The liveliness of the morning has settled into a gentle stillness. People move less. Voices are lower. Activities slow down, becoming softer and more contained. Under shaded areas made from woven reeds and simple wooden frames, families gather. The shade offers relief from the sun, creating cool patches where the air feels easier to breathe. A woman sits with her back against a wall, her eyes half closed. She is not fully asleep. Just resting. Nearby, a child lies on a woven mat, his small chest rising and falling in a steady rhythm. His hand rests loosely beside him, fingers slightly curled. The quiet of midday invites this kind of rest. It is not forced. It simply happens. In one corner of the village, a man pours water from a clay jar into a small cup. He drinks slowly. Each sip is careful, measured. The water is cool, drawn earlier from the river. It brings a brief sense of refreshment that spreads gently through his body. He sits for a while after, holding the empty cup, looking out across the open space before him. There is nothing he needs to do right now. And so, he does nothing. The river continues to flow. Its surface glimmers under the strong light, brighter now than before. The gentle ripples reflect the sky in shifting patterns of pale gold and soft white. At the water's edge, the fisherman from earlier has moved into the shade. His net lies beside him, loosely gathered. A small basket of fish rests nearby. It is not full, but it is enough. He leans back slightly, his eyes closing for a moment. The sound of the water reaches him, soft and steady. A constant presence. Further along the bank, reeds sway gently as a light breeze passes through. The movement is slow, almost unnoticeable, but it carries a faint rustling sound. It blends with the quiet hum of insects and the distant call of a bird. All of it together creates a kind of natural rhythm. One that continues even when people pause. In the shade of a palm tree, an older man sits alone. His posture is relaxed, his hands resting on his knees. His gaze is directed toward the horizon, though it is not focused on anything in particular. He has seen many days like this. Many mornings that grew into afternoons, many afternoons that softened into evening. For him, time is not something to measure closely. It is something to feel. To move within. Nearby, a young girl sits with a small piece of cloth in her hands. She works slowly, carefully threading fibers together. Her fingers move with quiet concentration. Each motion is small, but deliberate. She has watched others do this many times. Now she is learning through doing. There is no rush in her learning. Mistakes are not feared. They are simply part of the process. A light breeze moves through the village again. It passes over the shaded areas, across resting figures, through open doorways. It carries with it the faint scent of the river, mixed with the dry warmth of the earth. For a moment, the air feels softer, cooler. Then it fades, leaving behind the steady warmth once more. Time moves quietly here. There are no loud markers to signal its passing. No sudden changes. Only small shifts in light and shadow. The slow movement of the sun across the sky. The gradual return of energy as the heat begins, very slowly, to lessen. For now, though, the stillness remains. It settles over the village like a gentle blanket, holding everything in a calm, quiet pause. And in this pause, life continues softly, steadily, without effort. The stillness of midday does not last forever. Slowly, almost without being noticed, the weight of the heat begins to soften. The sun shifts its position in the sky, no longer directly overhead. Shadows begin to stretch again, thin at first, then gradually longer. The air remains warm, but it feels easier to move within it. In the village, small signs of activity begin to return. A man who had been resting beneath a shaded roof opens his eyes. He does not rise immediately. Instead, he sits quietly for a moment, letting his body wake at its own pace. Nearby, a child turns on his mat and sits up slowly. He rubs his eyes, looking around with a calm, unfocused gaze, as if remembering where he is. There is no sudden shift from rest to work. Everything happens gently. Gradually. One by one, people begin to move again. A woman stands and adjusts the cloth around her shoulders. She steps out from the shade and pauses, feeling the air, noticing the change. It is still warm, but no longer heavy. She walks toward the open space between the homes, her steps soft against the ground. In another part of the village, a man lifts a clay jar and checks its contents. He tilts it slightly, listening to the quiet movement of water inside. Satisfied, he places it down carefully and begins preparing to return to the river. The path there is familiar, worn smooth by many feet over many days. As he walks, the ground beneath him still holds the warmth of the sun, but the air above feels lighter. A faint breeze passes by, touching his skin briefly before moving on. At the river's edge, the light has changed. The bright glare of midday has softened into something warmer, more golden. The surface of the water reflects this change, shimmering with gentle movement. He kneels and lowers the jar once more. The water accepts it quietly. Small ripples spread outward, then disappear. Back in the village, the quiet hum of activity grows. Not loud. Not busy. Just steady. A group of women gather beneath a shaded area. In their hands are bundles of plant fibers, long and thin. They sit close together, working side by side. Their fingers move in slow, practiced motions. Twisting. Weaving. Binding. The fibers begin to take shape as rope or baskets, useful objects that will be used every day. As they work, they speak softly to one another. Their voices rise and fall in a gentle rhythm, never breaking the calm. There is comfort in this shared work. In doing something familiar, together. Nearby, a young boy follows an older man toward a small open space. The older man carries simple tools, pieces of wood, a small knife, and a bundle of reeds. He sits down and begins shaping the materials with careful attention. The boy watches closely. Every movement is slow and clear. The man does not explain much. He simply works. And the boy learns by seeing, by remembering, by trying. This is how skills are passed on. Not through long instruction, but through quiet example. In the distance, beyond the village, the fields wait. Some men have already begun to return, walking back toward their work. The heat has lessened just enough to allow movement again. They step into the soil once more, picking up where they left off. Their bodies remember the rhythm easily. There is no need to think about it. The work continues. The sun lowers further. Its light grows softer, stretching across the land in long, warm tones. The color of the earth deepens. The river glows faintly, reflecting the changing sky. Birds begin to move again. They lift from their resting places and glide through the air, their wings cutting slowly through the quiet. Some land near the fields. Others follow the line of the river. Their calls are gentle, spaced out, never sharp. In the village, children gather again in open spaces. Their energy has returned. They run, but not wildly. They play, but not loudly. Their laughter blends into the soft sounds of the afternoon, never disturbing the calm. One child rolls a small object along the ground, watching it move with quiet interest. Another follows, reaching out to catch it, then letting it go again. The games are simple, but they are enough. Near one of the homes, a woman prepares food for the evening. She moves with steady care, arranging what has been gathered throughout the day. Grain, small fish, bits of vegetables. Nothing is wasted. Everything has its place. The scent of cooking begins to rise again, drifting slowly through the village. It mixes with the warm air, creating a familiar and comforting presence. The older man who sat quietly earlier now shifts slightly. He watches as the light changes. As shadows grow longer. as the day begins its slow movement toward evening. There is no clear line where afternoon ends and evening begins. Only a gentle transition. A soft blending of light and time. And within this quiet transition, life continues. Steady. Calm. Unhurried. The river flows on. The fields hold their silent promise. And the people of ancient Egypt move through their day, just as they always have, guided by the sun, the land, and the quiet rhythm of living. The light begins to change again. It is subtle at first, almost unnoticeable. The sun lowers slowly, as if it is tired from its long journey across the sky. The brightness softens, losing its sharpness. Colors begin to deepen. The land feels different now. Long shadows stretch across the ground, reaching farther than they did in the morning. They move gently as the sun continues its slow descent. In the fields, the work begins to slow once more. The men who had returned to their tasks earlier now pause again. Their movements become lighter, less frequent. Tools are lifted and set down for the last time that day. There is no announcement that the work is ending. It simply fades. A natural quiet return. One man stands still for a moment, looking across the land he has been tending. The soil, the small green beginnings of crops, the faint lines left by tools. Everything is as it should be. Everything is enough for today. He turns and begins the walk back to the village. Others follow. The path is the same as it was in the morning, but it feels different now. The light has changed it. The air has changed it. Even the sound of footsteps seems softer. As they walk, the river remains beside them. It flows without pause. Unchanging in its steady movement. Its surface now reflects deeper colors, soft gold fading into amber, then into the first hints of orange and red. In the village, the atmosphere shifts. People begin to gather more closely. Families return to shared spaces, sitting near their homes or under shaded structures that still hold a bit of warmth from the day. The smell of food grows stronger. Cooking fires are brighter again, small flames flickering as pots are placed over them. The sound of gentle preparation fills the air, water pouring, wood shifting, clay pots being moved. A woman stirs a simple meal slowly. Her hand moves in steady circles. There is no rush. The evening does not demand speed. It invites calm. Children sit nearby, no longer running, but watching the movement of the adults. Their energy has softened too, settling into quiet attention. One child leans against a wall, holding a small object in his hands. He turns it slowly, studying it without urgency. Another sits close to her mother, resting her head against her arm. The village begins to feel closer now. Not crowded, but connected. The distance between people seems smaller in the fading light. An older man sits near the edge of the village again, in the same place he was earlier in the day. But now everything around him has changed slightly. The light is lower. The air is cooler. The sounds are softer. He watches as the sun moves closer to the horizon. There is a stillness in him, but it is not emptiness. It is familiarity. He has seen this moment many times. And yet, it never feels exactly the same. The sky begins to shift in color. Soft orange spreads across the horizon. Then deeper shades of red and gold. Above it, the sky remains pale, almost fading into early evening blue. The contrast is gentle. Never harsh. The river mirrors it all. Every change of color passes across its surface, breaking into small ripples that disappear almost as soon as they form. In one part of the village, a group of people gather more closely together. They sit in a loose circle, sharing food, sharing space, sharing the quiet end of the day. There is soft conversation, occasional silence, the sound of chewing, of breathing, of small movements of hands and cloth. It all blends together into something calm and steady. A man passes a small portion of food to another. A child receives something warm in a bowl and holds it carefully in both hands. Nothing here is excessive. Everything is simple. And enough. The sun touches the edge of the horizon. Not suddenly. But slowly. As if it is resting there for a moment before leaving. The land grows warmer in color one last time, glowing softly under the final light of the day. Then, gradually, the brightness begins to fade. The first signs of evening arrive. Shadows lengthen fully now, merging into one another. The shapes of trees and homes become softer, less defined. The air cools slightly. A quiet shift that everyone notices without needing to speak about it. In the fields, everything is still. In the village, everything is calm. And between them, the river continues its endless movement. The older man stands slowly. He does not hurry. He simply rises and turns toward his home. Others around him do the same. The day is not ending in a clear moment. It is dissolving gently. Step by step. Breath by breath. As people move back toward their homes, the village becomes quieter again. Not empty. Just softer. More inward. Fires burn low but steady. Smoke rises in thin, fading lines. The sky above deepens into warm tones that slowly begin to darken. And in this transition between day and night, everything feels balanced. Nothing is missing. Nothing is rushing. Only the slow, peaceful arrival of evening over the land of ancient Egypt. The last light of the sun fades slowly. It does not disappear all at once. Instead, it weakens little by little, as if the day is gently letting go. The colors in the sky soften into darker shades. Deep orange becomes pale gold, and gold becomes a dim, fading glow along the horizon. Then even that begins to vanish. The first coolness of evening spreads across the land. It moves quietly over the fields, over the river, over the rooftops of the village. The warmth of the day still lingers in the ground, but the air above it becomes lighter, calmer, and cooler. In the village, the fires burn lower now. Small flames flicker in clay hearths, casting soft light on nearby faces. Shadows dance gently against the walls of mud and reed homes. People begin to settle for the night. One by one, the day's movement slows completely. A woman finishes preparing the last of the evening meal. She places the bowl carefully in front of her family. No one speaks loudly. The moment feels too quiet for anything sharp or sudden. Food is eaten slowly. With steady hands. With calm breathing. A child leans against an adult's side, already half asleep, even while sitting upright. The warmth of the meal and the fading light seem to pull him gently downward into rest. Nearby, an older man sits just outside his home. He does not move much. His eyes follow the sky as it changes. The bright tones are gone now. What remains is a deepening blue, stretching wider and wider as darkness begins to take over. Above him, the first stars appear. One by one. Soft points of light, scattered carefully across the sky. Not bright in a harsh way, but steady and distant, as if they have always been there waiting quietly. The river reflects them faintly. Its surface now darker, slower, almost still in appearance. It continues to move, but the motion is harder to see in the growing night. In the distance, a small breeze passes through the reeds. They sway gently, producing a soft rustling sound. It blends with the faint crackle of dying fires and the occasional quiet movement inside the village. Everything feels closer now. More enclosed. As if the world has drawn itself inward for rest. Inside the homes, families begin to lie down. Mats are spread. Bodies settle. The day's fatigue releases slowly, like breath leaving the body after being held too long. A mother adjusts a thin cloth over her child. A father lies back with hands resting still on his chest. A grandmother closes her eyes without a word. There is no need for explanation. Night is not something to resist. It is something to enter. Outside, the last glow of the horizon finally disappears. The sky becomes fully dark now, but not empty. It is filled with stars. Soft and countless. They do not move quickly. They do not demand attention. They simply exist, steady and distant, above the quiet land. The older man outside his home lowers his gaze. He listens instead of looking. The sounds of the village are now very small. A final shift of cloth. A quiet breath. A soft settling of weight onto resting mats. Even the river seems quieter in the night. Though it still flows, its presence feels more like memory than motion. The land is resting now. Not frozen. Not silent in an empty way. But resting in the natural rhythm of the world. The sky deepens further. Darkness becomes complete, but gentle. No harsh edges. Only soft layers of night stretching over everything. In the distance, a night bird calls once. Low and slow. Then silence returns. Inside the homes, breathing becomes slower. Hearts calm. Thoughts fade gently into sleep. One by one, the people of the village let go of the day. Not suddenly. Not completely aware of the moment it happens. But gradually. Like sinking into warm water. Like drifting into soft ground. The village becomes still. The fires are now only faint embers. Glowing weakly, then fading further. The wind moves lightly across the rooftops, passing over sleeping bodies, through quiet doorways, and out into the open land again. The stars remain. Watching without movement. Without change. The Nile continues its endless path through the night, carrying time forward without sound. And beneath this vast, calm sky, ancient Egypt rests. Not as a kingdom of monuments. Not as a story of great events. But as a living place of simple days, soft nights, and quiet human life. Breathing slowly. Resting deeply. Held gently by the darkness until morning comes again. The night grows deeper now. Not darker in a sudden way, but in a slow and natural settling, as if the sky itself is gently closing its eyes. The stars remain above the land, steady and quiet. They do not move in any way that can be easily seen. They simply hold their places, scattered across the vastness, watching over everything below. The village is fully asleep. No voices remain. No movement continues. Only the quiet presence of resting life fills the small spaces between homes, between trees, between the soft shapes of the earth. Inside the mud brick houses, bodies lie still on woven mats. The heat of the day has fully left them now. What remains is a calm coolness, comfortable and gentle. A child breathes slowly, evenly. A mother turns slightly in sleep, then becomes still again. A man rests on his back, his hands relaxed at his sides, his chest rising and falling in a quiet rhythm. There is no urgency in any of it. Time feels suspended. Outside, the river continues its long, silent movement. It is almost invisible now, blending into the darkness. Only the faintest reflection of starlight reveals its presence. Even then, it appears like a thin, soft ribbon stretching through the land. It flows as it always does. Without hesitation. Without sound. Along its banks, reeds stand still. Their shapes are dark and thin against the night. Occasionally, a slight breeze passes through them, creating a soft rustling sound that fades almost immediately. The wind itself is gentle. It moves across the open fields, over empty paths, and through sleeping spaces. It does not disturb. It simply passes through, like a quiet visitor. In the distance, somewhere beyond the village, the desert stretches outward. Endless and still. Its sand holds the heat of the day deep within, but on the surface it now feels cool. The silence there is different from the village. Wider. More open. Almost weightless. No footsteps move there now. Only the memory of movement remains. The stars above continue their slow, steady presence. They offer no change, no signal, no urgency. Just quiet light suspended in darkness. Below them, everything rests. The older man at the edge of the village sleeps now as well. Where he once sat watching the sky, there is now stillness. His body has leaned back into rest, his thoughts already drifting away into sleep. The village breathes together in silence. One shared rhythm. One shared pause. Far along the river, a faint sound of water shifting against the shore appears briefly, then disappears again. It is soft enough to almost not exist, blending into the night so completely that it feels imagined. But the river is always moving. Even in silence. Even in darkness. As the night continues, the sense of time becomes even softer. There is no direction now, no morning ahead, no afternoon behind. Only the present moment of deep, calm rest. The world feels paused. Not stopped. Just held. Above, the sky remains unchanged. Below, the earth rests without resistance. In between, the air is still and cool, carrying only the faintest traces of movement. The night bird calls once more, farther away this time. The sound is low, stretched, and then gone. Silence returns immediately. Inside the homes, sleep deepens. Breathing slows further. Dreams begin quietly, without disturbance, like soft images forming behind closed eyes. The village is now fully wrapped in night. No fire remains bright. No sound rises above the ground. Even thought itself seems to slow. And in this deep stillness, the Nile continues its eternal flow, holding the land together through the long hours of darkness. It does not change. It does not pause. It simply moves forward, carrying the night gently toward the first hint of morning that has not yet arrived. The stars remain above. Patient. Endless. Softly watching. The night does not end quickly. It fades in a way that is almost too soft to notice. At first, everything remains still. The stars continue to shine in their quiet positions, unchanged, steady as ever. The village is still asleep. The river still flows. The desert still rests in its wide, open silence. But something begins to shift. Not in the land. Not in the sky. But in the feeling of the air. It grows slightly cooler. A faint change that touches the skin without announcing itself. The deepest part of night has passed, though nothing clearly marks the moment it happened. Inside the village, sleep remains deep. Breathing is slow. Peaceful. Uninterrupted. A child turns gently in his sleep, then settles again. A hand loosens its grip on a woven cloth. A face relaxes further into rest. The world remains in its quietest form. And yet, beyond the silence, morning is beginning to gather itself. Very far away, along the edge of the horizon, the darkness is no longer absolute. It holds a softness now, a slight thinning, as if the sky is preparing to change its shape. The stars are still visible, but they feel slightly less sharp than before. More distant. More delicate. The river reflects this subtle shift. Its surface remains dark, but there are faint hints of lighter tones forming within it, like memory returning to water. Along the banks, reeds stand motionless. The wind has almost stopped entirely. Everything feels suspended again, but in a different way than night. Not deepening anymore. Instead, gently loosening. Inside the homes, the village continues to sleep. There is no awareness of time passing. Only rest. Only stillness. And then, almost without warning, the sky begins to change. Not dramatically. Not suddenly. But slowly, as if the darkness is being softened from within. A faint line of gray appears at the edge of the horizon. Very thin. Almost unnoticeable at first. It stretches quietly across the land, marking the boundary between night and what is not yet morning. The stars above remain for a while longer, but one by one they begin to fade. Not disappearing, but becoming less certain, less bright, as if stepping back into distance. The air grows clearer. Slightly brighter. Slightly lighter. In the village, a few early signs of waking appear. Not yet full movement. Only small shifts. A man exhales more deeply in his sleep and adjusts his position. A woman's hand moves slightly before resting again. A child's breathing becomes a little more active, as if the body is slowly preparing for awareness. Still, no one wakes. The village remains wrapped in sleep. But the world around it is changing. The gray line on the horizon slowly grows wider. A hint of pale color begins to form within it, soft, almost invisible at first, like the memory of light returning after a long absence. The river begins to reflect this change more clearly now. Its surface is no longer entirely dark. There are faint bands of shifting tone across it, moving gently with the water's flow. The desert beyond the fields begins to take shape again. Not fully visible, but suggested. Contours returning from darkness. The sky continues to lighten in the smallest increments. No rush. No break. Just a slow unfolding. And then, at some point that cannot be precisely marked, the first true sign of morning appears. A faint glow. Not strong. Not bright. But present. It spreads carefully along the horizon, touching the edge of the world in a soft, golden whisper. The stars begin to disappear now, not all at once, but gradually, as if the sky is choosing to let them go one by one. Inside the village, sleep begins to shift. Still deep, but no longer untouched by the change above. The air feels different now, carrying the slightest sense of renewal, of return. The glow at the horizon strengthens a little more. Still gentle. Still quiet. But unmistakably present. The Nile reflects it fully now, carrying the first light of a new day across its slow-moving surface. The village remains asleep for a few moments longer, holding on to the last softness of night. And then, very gently, the cycle prepares to begin again. Not with noise. Not with urgency. But with the same quiet rhythm that has always guided this land. a new morning waiting just beyond the edge of sleep. The light does not arrive all at once. It grows. Slowly. Quietly. Like something remembering how to exist after a long pause. Across the horizon, the pale glow deepens into soft gold. It spreads outward in gentle layers, touching the edges of the land before reaching farther into the sky. The darkness does not resist. It simply loosens its hold and begins to fade. The stars disappear now, not suddenly, but as if they were always meant to drift away at this hour. One by one. Until only the softening sky remains. In the village, sleep begins to change. Not ending yet, but shifting. A man's breathing becomes uneven for a moment, then steadies again. A woman turns onto her side, her face catching the faintest hint of early light filtering through the walls of her home. A child stirs, still not awake, but closer now to awareness. The world is not waking quickly. It is unfolding. Like a slow opening hand. Outside, the river reflects the first full presence of dawn. Its surface is no longer dark. It carries soft bands of gold and pale silver, moving gently with the water's slow, constant flow. The reflection is broken and reformed with every ripple, never fixed, always changing. Along the banks, the reeds begin to show their color again. Dark shapes becoming brown. Then green. Then real again. The air feels different now. Cooler than night in a new way. Cleaner. As if the world has been washed quietly by darkness and light together. The village still sleeps. But the edge of waking is near. A rooster calls somewhere in the distance. Low at first. Then slightly clearer. The sound does not break the silence. It fits within it, as if it belongs there. A few moments pass. Then movement begins. A man inside one of the homes opens his eyes. He does not rise immediately. He simply lies still for a moment, looking upward into the dim interior of the roof above him. His mind is not yet fully awake. It is somewhere between rest and awareness. He listens. The world is quiet, but not empty. Slowly, he sits up. Carefully. As if not to disturb the calm of the morning. Around him, others begin to follow the same rhythm. Not all at once. Not as a group. But individually, each person responding to the quiet invitation of the new day. Outside, the light grows stronger. The horizon now holds a soft, continuous band of warm color. Gold blending into pale orange, then into the first clear blue of morning sky above. The river brightens further. It no longer reflects darkness at all. Only light. Only motion. Only beginning. A woman steps out of her home. She pauses at the entrance, letting her eyes adjust slowly. The air greets her gently. Cool, steady, familiar. She breathes in without thinking. The village is waking now. Not loudly. Not suddenly. But steadily. One household at a time. A fire is lit again in a small hearth. Not large. Just enough. A thin line of smoke rises upward, blending into the brightening sky. Another follows soon after. Then another. The smell of early cooking returns. Soft. Simple. Familiar. Children emerge more slowly. Some still rubbing sleep from their eyes. Others already more alert, moving toward open spaces, drawn naturally by the return of daylight. Their voices are quiet at first. Then slightly stronger. But still gentle. Everything remains calm. The fields beyond the village begin to reappear fully as light spreads across them. The soil, the plants, the paths all returning clearly from the night. In the distance, the first figures begin to move toward the farmland again. Slow steps. Familiar direction. The cycle has returned. But it never truly left. It only rested. The sun itself is not fully visible yet. Only its presence is felt in the growing brightness. The sky continues to open. Wider. Lighter. Clearer. Inside the village, life resumes its steady rhythm. Water is carried. Bread is prepared. Tools are gathered. Not with urgency, but with quiet acceptance. The same way it has always been. The river flows beside everything. The land supports everything. And the people move within it all, gently guided by the slow turning of day and night. The first full morning light finally settles across the village. Soft. Warm. Alive. And the new day begins again, just as every day has before it, and just as every day will continue after. Not different. Not rushed. Only continuing. Quietly. Steadily. Endlessly. The morning light settles more fully now. It is no longer just arriving at the edges of the world. It is present everywhere, resting gently across the land, touching the river, the fields, and the small village that sits beside them. Everything is visible again. Not in a sharp or overwhelming way, but in a calm and familiar clarity. The day has properly begun. In the village, movement continues to increase, though never in a sudden rush. It grows the way warmth spreads through the air slowly, evenly, naturally. A man steps out from his home carrying a small bundle of tools. He adjusts the cloth over his shoulder and looks toward the fields for a moment before walking forward. His steps are steady. Unhurried. This is not a new beginning. It is the continuation of something that never truly stopped. Nearby, a woman kneels beside a clay container. She dips a small vessel into it and lifts water carefully. The liquid catches the morning light for a brief moment before she carries it back inside. Every movement feels familiar. Every action has been done many times before. Children now move more freely through the open spaces between homes. Their energy has returned with the morning, but it is still gentle. They walk, they pause, they observe the world as it becomes active again. One child follows the edge of a wall with his hand as he walks. Another sits briefly in the dirt, watching a small insect move across the ground. Even play here feels slow. Connected to everything around it. In the fields, the first workers arrive again. The land looks different in the full light of day. Wider. Clearer. The soil shows its texture more deeply now. The plants show their subtle variations in color. The paths between rows are more defined. A man bends down and touches the earth lightly. It is still cool from the night beneath the warmth of the sun. He takes a slow breath and begins his work again. Not as something new, but as something continued. The oxen stand ready once more. Patient. Still. Familiar with the rhythm of the day returning to them. A farmer adjusts the rope and gives a quiet signal. The animals begin to move forward. Step by step. The plow follows the earth again, drawing soft lines into the soil that will hold seeds and future growth. The sound is simple. Wood and ground. Movement and resistance. A rhythm that belongs to the land itself. Back in the village, the scent of food becomes more present. Not heavy. Just steady. Bread warming again. Grain being prepared. Water being carried in smooth, Practiced motions. People gather in small groups as they begin their day's tasks. Not formally. Not organized in a strict way. But naturally, as life brings them together in shared spaces. An older woman sits beneath a shaded structure once again. She watches the movement around her. Not with urgency, but with quiet attention. She has seen many mornings like this. And yet each one feels slightly different in its details. A passing breeze. A child's movement. The way light falls on a particular wall. Small things that make each day its own. The river continues its steady presence beside everything. It does not change its pace. It does not respond to the activities around it. It simply moves forward. As it always has. A fisherman steps into the water again. The same place. The same motion. The same quiet preparation of net and balance. He casts it outward once more. And waits. The village is now fully awake. But still calm. Still grounded in the same slow rhythm that shapes everything here. There is no separation between waking and living. They are the same motion. The sun rises higher into the morning sky, but not yet at its strongest point. Its light remains soft enough to be gentle. Strong enough to guide. The land breathes beneath it. Fields, river, village all existing together in quiet continuity. A new day is not an interruption. It is not a change in direction. It is simply another step in the same endless pattern. A pattern that repeats without feeling repetitive. Because each moment, each breath, each small action is slightly different from the one before it. And in that difference, life continues. Quiet. Steady. Unfolding. Like the river itself. Always moving. Always present. Always becoming the next moment without ever needing to announce it. And so the day goes on. Softly. Ordinarily. Endlessly familiar. The morning has now settled into its full rhythm. The light is steady overhead, no longer soft like dawn, but not yet heavy like midday. It rests across everything with a kind of calm certainty, as if it knows exactly where it belongs. In the village, work becomes more structured now, though still quiet in its movement. People are no longer waking. They are working. A man sits on the ground with a simple set of tools beside him. In his hands is a piece of wood. He shapes it slowly, shaving thin layers away with a small blade. Each motion is careful, controlled, and familiar. The sound is soft. A quiet scraping. Wood giving way to skill. Nearby, another person weaves fibers together. The strands are thin, almost fragile looking, but they become stronger as they are interlaced. Over time, they begin to form baskets, ropes, and containers, things that will carry grain, water, and daily life itself. There is no rush in any of this. Only repetition. Only attention. Only patience. Children move in and out of these spaces, not as interruptions, but as part of the environment. They watch. They learn without being told. They mimic movements they have seen before, even if imperfectly. A small hand tries to copy the weaving pattern. Another child balances a piece of wood in imitation of an adult worker nearby. Learning here is not separate from living. It is woven into it. Across the village, the sounds of daily life remain gentle and layered. The faint crackle of fire used for cooking. The low murmur of conversation between neighbors. The occasional call of someone speaking from one home to another. Nothing is loud. Everything blends. In the fields, the work continues under the steady sun. The soil now feels warmer than it did earlier. It holds the heat more evenly, responding to the growing strength of daylight. Men move slowly between rows, checking the earth, adjusting small details, ensuring that each part of the field is prepared properly. One pauses and looks up. The sky is wide above him. Clear. Endless. He wipes his hands on his cloth and continues without speaking. There is no need for discussion. The work is understood. Farther along the riverbank, a small group gathers near a shaded area. They sit together while sorting what has been collected from earlier in the day: grains, reeds, small tools, simple materials that will be used again and again. Their hands move steadily. Sorting. Arranging. Organizing. A rhythm within a rhythm. The river itself remains unchanged. It carries the memory of every hour that has passed, though it does not hold on to any of them. It simply continues. A constant line of movement beside a constantly changing land. A fisherman checks his net again, pulling it gently from the water. A few fish catch the light briefly before being placed into a container. He does not pause to reflect on success or failure. Only continuation. Only what comes next. In the village, the sun begins to climb higher. The light grows stronger now, shifting the tone of everything it touches. Shadows shorten again, retreating closer to their objects. The air warms. Not sharply, but steadily. People adjust without comment. Work continues. The older woman under shade remains in her place. She watches. Not everything. Just pieces of it. A child running past. A man adjusting a tool. The slow movement of smoke rising from a cooking fire. Her presence is still part of the village, even if she is no longer active in its labor. Time here does not remove people from life. It simply changes their position within it. The day moves forward gently. Not in segments, but in flow. One action blending into another without clear boundaries. A man finishes shaping a wooden object and sets it aside. A woman completes a woven item and begins another. A child falls asleep briefly in the shade, then wakes again to continue watching the world. Everything continues. Everything returns. Everything repeats in slightly different form. The sun reaches a higher point now, but still holds its calm tone. The land beneath it remains steady. Fields, river, village, all part of a single, slow pattern of living. Nothing here is separate. Nothing here is rushed. And so the day continues to unfold in its ordinary way. Quietly. Steadily. Without end in sight. The sun continues its steady climb. It moves higher, slowly approaching the center of the sky once more. The light grows stronger, clearer, and more direct. The softness of early morning has now faded into a quiet brightness that touches everything without pause. The air begins to change again. What was once light and cool becomes warmer, then gradually heavier. It settles across the land in a way that slows movement, softens sound, and draws everything inward. In the fields, the men feel it first. Their steps remain steady, but less frequent. Their bodies begin to respond to the growing heat without needing to think about it. Movements become smaller, more efficient. One man pauses and straightens his back. He takes a slow breath, feeling the warmth around him. There is no resistance. Only acceptance. The rhythm of the land is not something to fight. It is something to move with. Nearby, the oxen slow their pace slightly. Their breathing becomes more noticeable now, their bodies responding to the same rising warmth. The farmer guiding them rests his hand gently against one of their sides, feeling the steady motion beneath. Work continues. But gently. Without strain. Back in the village, the change is just as clear. The open spaces that were active earlier begin to quiet again. Movement becomes less frequent. People seek shade without speaking about it. Under woven coverings and near the walls of homes, shaded areas begin to fill once more. A woman sits down slowly, placing her hands in her lap for a moment before reaching for her work again. Even simple tasks continue, but at a softer pace. The grinding of grain resumes, but slower. The weaving of fibers continues, but with longer pauses between movements. Nothing stops completely. It only softens. Children, who moved more freely earlier, now begin to settle again. One sits in the shade, tracing patterns in the dust with a small stick. Another lies down beside a wall, watching the light shift across the ground without speaking. Their energy fades naturally into stillness. No one tells them to rest. The day itself does. A man returns from the river carrying water. The jar rests against his shoulder, balanced with quiet care. When he reaches the shaded area of his home, he lowers it slowly, as if even that small motion deserves attention. He sits beside it. Not doing anything immediately. Just being still. The river continues its steady flow beside all of this. It reflects the strong light of the sun now, its surface bright and shimmering. The movement of the water creates shifting patterns that are almost too bright to look at directly. Even so, it remains calm. Unchanged in its purpose. Along its banks, fewer people stand now. The fisherman from earlier has moved back into the shade, his net resting loosely beside him. His work has paused, not ended, simply waiting for the heat to pass. A soft breeze moves across the land. It is not strong, but it is noticeable. It passes through the reeds, across the surface of the river, and into the village. It touches skin lightly, offering brief relief before fading again. The older woman under the shaded structure closes her eyes for a moment. Not fully asleep. Just resting. Her breathing slows. Her body settles deeper into stillness. Around her, others do the same. The village enters a quiet pause. Not empty. Not silent. But softened. The sounds that remain are gentle and spaced apart. The quiet turning of grain between stones. The soft shifting of cloth. The distant movement of water. Everything else seems to fade into the background. Time feels slower here. Not measured by anything exact. Only by the movement of light. By the length of shadows. By the feeling of the air. The sun now stands high again. Near its peak. The light is direct, strong, but not harsh in a way that demands reaction. It simply exists, as it always does, shaping the day as it passes. In the fields, work has nearly paused again. The men gather their tools, not because they are finished, but because this is the time to rest. They walk back toward the village once more. Their steps are slow. Their bodies relaxed. There is no urgency to return. Only the understanding that rest is part of the work itself. As they approach, the village receives them quietly. There are no greetings that break the calm. Only shared presence. Shared understanding. People sit together under shade. Water is passed. Food is shared in small amounts. Everything is done with care. Everything is enough. The heat settles fully now. Midday has arrived again. And with it, the same gentle stillness that wraps around the land like a soft layer. holding everything in place, allowing life to pause without stopping, allowing breath to slow without effort, allowing the day to continue, not through action, but through quiet rest. The river flows. The land waits. And the people of ancient Egypt move once more into the calm center of the day. Midday settles more deeply now. The warmth no longer feels like something that is growing. It has reached its quiet peak, resting across the land in a steady and unmoving way. The air is still, and the brightness of the sun holds everything in a calm, suspended state. In the village, the pause becomes more complete. People are not fully asleep, but they are no longer active in the way they were earlier. Instead, they exist in a space between movement and rest, where even small actions feel softened. Under shaded coverings, families sit together. Not speaking much. Not needing to. A man leans back against a wall, his eyes half closed. His breathing is slow and even. He listens to the quiet around him, not focusing on any single sound, but aware of all of them at once. Nearby, a woman sits beside him, her hands resting loosely in her lap. She is not working now. The tools she used earlier lie beside her, untouched for the moment. She watches a child across the shaded space. The child is tracing shapes in the dust again, slowly dragging a finger across the ground. The lines do not form anything specific. They appear, then disappear as the hand moves again. Time feels different in this moment. Not divided. Not counted. Only experienced. Another group sits a short distance away. 2 women and an older man. They speak quietly, their voices low and unhurried. The conversation is simple, made of familiar words and shared understanding. It moves slowly, with pauses that are just as important as the words themselves. Sometimes they stop speaking altogether. And that is enough. Silence here is not empty. It is comfortable. It allows thoughts to settle. It allows presence to be felt without effort. A small breeze moves through the village again. It passes lightly over faces, through open doorways, across the ground where children sit. It carries a faint scent of the river and distant plants, mixing with the warmth of the earth. For a brief moment, everything feels lighter. Then the stillness returns. In one corner of the village, a man lies on his side, resting fully now. His body has given into the quiet pull of sleep. His arm is tucked beneath his head, his breathing slow and deep. Nearby, another person remains awake, watching without disturbing him. There is no separation between rest and wakefulness here. They exist together, blending into one shared moment. At the edge of the village, near the river, a few people sit close to the water. They do not enter it. They simply sit beside it. The surface glimmers under the strong light, moving in slow, endless patterns. It offers a kind of quiet companionship, a steady presence that does not ask anything in return. One person dips a hand into the water briefly. The coolness lingers on the skin for a moment after it is lifted. A small relief. A simple comfort. Then the hand rests again. Further out, the fields remain still. No one works there now. The land waits under the sun, holding its warmth, its quiet promise of growth. The lines made earlier in the soil remain undisturbed, as if time itself has paused to rest along with everything else. Even the animals are still. The oxen stand in shaded areas, their bodies relaxed. Their eyes half closed. Their breathing steady. Birds remain hidden in the shade, their calls less frequent now, spaced far apart in the quiet air. Everything is resting. Everything is part of this shared pause. Back in the village, the older woman opens her eyes again. She looks slowly across the space in front of her. Her gaze is soft, not searching for anything, simply observing. She sees the same things she has seen many times before. People resting. Children quiet. Light moving slowly across the ground. But there is something in it that always feels new. Not different in form, but different in feeling. Each moment carries its own quiet presence. And she sits within it without needing to change it. The heat remains steady. The light remains strong. But the weight of it no longer feels heavy. It feels accepted. Understood. A part of the day that belongs exactly where it is. Time continues, though it is difficult to notice. The sun will move again. The shadows will grow. The air will change. But for now, everything rests in the center of the day. Together. Without urgency. Without resistance. Only quiet company. Only shared stillness. Only the gentle passing of time across the land of ancient Egypt. The stillness does not last forever. It begins to loosen in small, quiet ways. At first, it is only a feeling. The air shifts slightly, no longer as heavy as it was before. The light changes its angle, moving away from its highest point. Shadows, which had almost disappeared, begin to return thin and faint at first. The day is beginning to move again. In the village, people sense it without speaking. A man who had been resting opens his eyes fully now. He takes a slow breath, then another. For a moment, he remains where he is, allowing the weight of rest to lift naturally from his body. Then, carefully, he sits up. Nearby, a woman adjusts her position, placing her hands against the ground as she rises. Her movements are slow, but more certain than before. Around them, others begin to do the same. Not all at once. Not with urgency. But one by one, like small ripples spreading through still water. Children stir as well. One pushes himself up from the ground, brushing dust from his hands. Another looks around with quiet curiosity, as if the world has returned while he was not looking. Their energy comes back gently. Not in bursts, but in a steady, growing way. A soft breeze passes through the village. It is slightly stronger now than before. It moves through the shaded spaces, across open ground, through the narrow paths between homes. It carries a sense of change, of motion returning. The heat is still present. But it no longer holds everything in place. It begins to release its quiet grip. In the distance, the river reflects the shift. The bright glare of midday softens into something warmer, more textured. The surface shows movement more clearly again, small ripples catching the light as they pass. At the edge of the village, a man stands and stretches his arms slowly. His body responds to the movement with ease. There is no stiffness, no rush to begin again. Only readiness. He looks toward the fields. The land waits. Just as it did before. And so, he begins to walk. Others follow. Tools are lifted once more. Not with effort, but with familiarity. Hands know where to reach. Feet know where to go. The path toward the fields fills again with quiet movement. Step by step. Side by side. No need for words. In the village, activity returns in small ways. A woman returns to her weaving, her fingers finding the pattern again without hesitation. The fibers bend and cross, forming shapes that grow slowly with each motion. Another resumes grinding grain. The sound returns soft, steady, and comforting in its repetition. Children gather in open spaces once more. Their voices rise slightly, still gentle, still calm. They begin to move again, walking, playing, exploring the familiar edges of their small world. One child follows a bird's shadow across the ground, stepping where it steps, pausing where it pauses. The game is simple, but it fills the moment completely. The older woman under the shade watches this return of movement. She does not move much herself, but her eyes follow the changes. The rising, the shifting, the continuation of life as it always flows. In the fields, work resumes. Men step into the soil again, bending, adjusting, continuing what was paused earlier. The lines in the earth are extended. The seeds are checked. The land is cared for once more. The oxen move again, slow and steady. Their rhythm unchanged. Their presence quiet and constant. The sound of work returns to the land. Soft. Measured. Unintrusive. Above, the sun begins its slow descent. Not yet low, but moving. Always moving. The sky remains wide and clear, but its tone has softened slightly. The harshness of midday has faded, replaced by a warmer, more forgiving light. The village and the fields exist together again in this renewed motion. Not separate, not divided, but part of the same quiet rhythm. A fisherman returns to the water. He lifts his net once more, preparing to cast it again into the flowing river. His movements are calm, practiced, unchanged. The net spreads over the water, then settles. He waits. As he always does. Time moves forward again. Not quickly. Not slowly. Just steadily. The pause of midday has passed. The life of the afternoon has begun. And everything continues, as it always has, gently, quietly, without interruption. The afternoon continues, but its energy begins to change. It does not fade suddenly. Instead, it softens. The sun lowers a little more, and its light becomes warmer, spreading across the land in deeper tones. The brightness that once filled every space begins to settle into something gentler, something more relaxed. Shadows grow longer again. They stretch quietly across the ground, reaching out from trees, from homes, from the people who move slowly through their final tasks of the day. In the fields, the work continues, but only for a little while longer. The men who have been tending the soil feel the shift in the air. Their movements remain steady, but there is a quiet understanding that the day is nearing its end. A man pauses and straightens his back. He looks across the field. The rows of earth lie calm beneath the softening light. The small plants, the lines in the soil, the gentle patterns made by tools all rest where they are. Nothing more is needed right now. He lifts his tool and rests it over his shoulder. Others nearby begin to do the same. The work does not stop at a single moment. It fades. Like the light itself. Step by step, they begin their return to the village. The path is familiar, as it always is. But in the evening light, it feels quieter, more reflective. The air carries a softness that was not there before. A gentle calm settles over everything. The river flows beside them, glowing now with warm shades of gold and soft orange. Its surface reflects the lowering sun, breaking the light into small moving patterns that drift slowly downstream. In the village, the atmosphere begins to shift as well. People move closer together. Not by instruction, but by habit. By feeling. A woman gathers simple ingredients for the evening meal. Her hands move slowly, thoughtfully, arranging what has been prepared throughout the day. Nearby, another adjusts a small fire, feeding it just enough to keep it alive. The flames flicker gently, their light dancing softly against the clay walls. The scent of cooking returns. Warm. Familiar. Comforting. Children, who had been moving freely through the village, begin to settle again. Their play becomes quieter. More contained. One child sits beside an older family member, leaning gently against them. Another watches the firelight with quiet attention, as if it holds something to be understood. Voices remain soft. Conversations, when they happen, are slow and unhurried. Words are shared not to fill silence, but to gently move within it. In one corner of the village, a small group gathers. They sit close together, not in any formal arrangement, but naturally, as people do when the day begins to close. A man passes a small portion of food to another. A woman adjusts a cloth around a child's shoulders. Someone speaks a few quiet words. Then silence returns again. There is no discomfort in it. Only ease. The older woman remains in her place, watching as the day softens around her. She sees the patterns she has seen many times before. The return from the fields. The lighting of fires. The gathering of people. The slow shift from work to rest. And yet, each time, it carries a quiet sense of completion. Not final, but full. The sun lowers further. It approaches the edge of the horizon, though it has not yet touched it. Its light becomes richer, deeper, spreading warmth across the land in long, gentle strokes. The fields grow quieter now. No one remains working there. The soil rests again, holding the day's efforts within it. The oxen stand still, their work finished. Their bodies relaxed, their breathing calm. Back in the village, the evening continues to gather. People sit closer. Movements slow further. The air cools slightly, bringing a sense of relief that spreads gently through the body. A breeze passes through again, softer now, carrying the scent of earth and water together. The river reflects the changing sky. Its colors deepen, shifting slowly as the sun continues its descent. Everything feels connected in this moment. The land. The water. The people. The light. All moving together toward the same quiet ending of the day. But it is not an ending that brings closure. It is one that brings rest. One that prepares the way for night to arrive gently, just as it did before. And in this soft approach of evening, life continues calm, steady, and quietly complete. The sun lowers until it finally touches the horizon. It does not disappear quickly. It lingers there for a moment, as if resting at the edge of the world before slipping away. The light spreads outward in soft layers of gold, amber, and quiet red. The land glows. Everything it touches becomes warmer, deeper, more gentle. In the village, people notice this change without needing to speak of it. Their movements slow even more. The tasks that remained unfinished are quietly set aside. There is no urgency to complete anything now. The day has already given what it needed to give. A man places his tool down near the entrance of his home. He does not look at it again. It will be there tomorrow. That is enough. Nearby, a woman adjusts the fire once more, not to make it stronger, but to let it settle into a steady, low flame. The light it gives is soft, flickering gently against the walls. Children sit close to their families now. Their voices have softened into whispers, then into quiet presence. Some lean against their parents. Others sit with their hands resting loosely in their laps, watching the final light of the day. The sky changes slowly above them. The bright tones fade into deeper colors. Orange softens into red. Red into a muted purple. And beyond it all, the first hints of night begin to return. The river mirrors everything. Its surface holds the last light of the sun, breaking it into moving reflections that shimmer and fade with each small ripple. A fisherman stands at the edge of the water, looking out across it. He is not working now. He is simply standing. Watching. The moment does not ask anything of him. It only exists. And he remains within it. In the distance, the fields are quiet. Completely still. The soil rests under the fading light, holding the warmth of the day within it. The lines drawn earlier remain untouched, waiting patiently for the next morning. Back in the village, families begin to gather more closely. Not formally, but naturally. They sit near their homes, near the soft light of the fires, near one another. Food is shared again. Simple. Measured. Enough. A man hands a portion to a child. A woman places a small bowl beside another. There is no rush in eating. Each movement is calm. Each moment is allowed to exist fully. The older woman watches all of this quietly. Her eyes follow the slow disappearance of light from the land. She has seen this countless times, yet it remains something to observe, something to feel. The day is not ending suddenly. It is dissolving. The sun slips lower. Half hidden now. Then less. Then only a thin line of light remains. The sky above deepens further. The colors soften, blending into one another without sharp edges. A breeze moves through the village again. Cooler now. Carrying the first true feeling of night. It passes over skin, through open spaces, across the quiet forms of people sitting together. The warmth of the day begins to leave the air. Not all at once, but steadily. The final edge of the sun disappears. There is no moment of darkness that follows. Instead, there is a soft continuation. Light fading into something quieter. Something deeper. The sky holds a dim glow for a while longer. A gentle reminder of the day that has just passed. In the village, the fires become more noticeable now. Their light replaces the sun in small, contained ways. Shadows grow longer and softer, moving with the flicker of flame. Voices fade further. Conversation becomes less frequent. Silence grows, not empty, but full. Full of presence. Full of rest. The river darkens slowly. Its reflections shift from warm tones to deeper shades of gray and blue. Its movement remains the same. Steady. Endless. The first star appears above. Small. Quiet. Unannounced. Then another. And another. The sky begins to fill again, just as it did the night before. The cycle returns. Without effort. Without interruption. The people of the village begin to withdraw into their homes. Not all at once. But gradually. One family rises. Then another. Each movement is soft, respectful of the quiet that now surrounds everything. The older woman closes her eyes for a moment, then opens them again. The day is gone. But nothing feels lost. Only complete. And as the last light fades fully into night, the land settles once more into calm darkness. The Nile continues its gentle flow. The village grows still. And the quiet presence of night returns, just as it always does. Night returns fully, but it does not arrive with force. It spreads gently across the land, like a soft covering placed over everything at once. The last traces of color in the sky fade into a deep and even blue, and then into darkness that feels calm rather than empty. The stars grow clearer now. More of them appear, filling the sky in quiet patterns. They shine softly, not demanding attention, only offering their steady presence above the sleeping world. In the village, the fires burn low. Their light flickers gently, casting small, shifting shadows against the walls of homes. The glow is warm, but contained, never reaching far beyond where it is needed. Families settle inside. One by one. A man steps through the entrance of his home and lowers himself slowly onto a woven mat. His body relaxes almost immediately, as if it has been waiting for this moment all day. Nearby, a woman arranges a thin covering over a child who has already fallen asleep. She moves carefully, her hands light, her breath quiet. There is no rush in these final moments. Only care. Only calm. Outside, the village grows quieter with each passing moment. Voices fade into silence. Footsteps become less frequent. Movement slows until it is barely noticeable at all. The air is cooler now. Not cold. Just gentle. A soft contrast to the warmth of the day that still lingers faintly in the ground. The river continues its steady flow beside everything. Its surface is dark once more, reflecting only the faint light of the stars above. The movement of the water is almost invisible, but it is always there. Always continuing. At the edge of the village, the fisherman sits quietly for a moment before rising. His work is done. His place now is among the others, resting. He takes one last look at the river, then turns and walks back slowly, his steps soft against the earth. In the distance, the fields are no longer visible in detail. They exist only as shapes in the darkness. Still. Silent. Holding the memory of the day's work within them. Back in the village, the older woman lies down now as well. Her place beneath the shade has given way to rest. Her eyes close gently. Her breathing becomes slow and even, joining the quiet rhythm of all those around her. Inside the homes, bodies settle fully. Mats shift slightly underweight. Cloth moves softly. Then stillness. The night deepens, but it does not feel heavy. It feels open. Spacious. The sky stretches endlessly above, filled with quiet light that never changes too quickly. The stars do not hurry. The wind moves only occasionally, passing lightly through the village, brushing against walls, slipping through open spaces, then continuing on. It carries no urgency. Only presence. A night bird calls in the distance. The sound is low and stretched, fading almost as soon as it appears. Then silence returns again. Complete. Unbroken. The village now rests entirely. There are no remaining tasks. No unfinished movements. The day has closed fully, not with an end, but with a gentle release into rest. The river flows on. The land holds steady. The sky remains wide and still. And within this quiet, the people of ancient Egypt sleep once more, held softly between the passing of one day and the quiet promise of another. Time continues, but without being noticed. Breath follows breath. Night follows night. And everything moves forward, slowly, calmly, without interruption. The night deepens once more. It does not feel new. It feels familiar. As if it has always been here, waiting quietly behind the movement of the day. The stars remain steady above the land, just as they were before, just as they will be again. Their light does not change. It does not hurry. It simply exists, soft and distant. Below them, the village rests. Every home is still. Every body at ease. Breathing moves in slow, even patterns, rising and falling like the river itself. There is no difference between one moment and the next, only a quiet continuation of rest. The world feels held in place. Not frozen, but gently sustained. And in this stillness, something deeper can be felt. Not something spoken. Not something explained. But something understood without words. The rhythm of life here is not made of large events. It is not shaped by sudden change. It is built from repetition. From the same movements, the same patterns, the same quiet cycles that return again and again. Morning light. Work in the fields. Midday rest. Afternoon movement. Evening gathering. Night. And then again. The same. And yet never exactly the same. Each day carries small differences. A slightly cooler breeze. A different arrangement of clouds. A child growing a little taller. A pair of hands becoming more skilled. These changes are not loud. They do not demand attention. But they are always present. And over time, they shape everything. The river reflects this better than anything else. It flows the same way every day. It follows the same path. It touches the same land. And yet, no moment of water is ever the same as the one before it. It moves forward constantly, carrying with it the quiet passage of time. The people who live beside it move in a similar way. Their lives are simple, but not empty. Their days are repeated, but not meaningless. Each action, though familiar, holds purpose. Each movement, though quiet, contributes to the whole. A man wakes, works, rests, returns, sleeps, and within that pattern, his life unfolds. Not through dramatic change, but through steady presence. A woman prepares food each day. Her hands repeat the same motions. Mixing, shaping, cooking. But each time, it feeds someone. Each time, it sustains life. A child watches, learns, grows, without needing to measure time, without needing to understand it fully. The pattern carries them forward. Gently, naturally, without force. In the deep quiet of the night, all of this continues. Even in stillness, life moves. Not visibly, but within. Within breath. Within memory. Within the slow passage of time that does not need to be counted. The village sleeps, but it is not separate from the day that came before it, or the day that will come after. It is part of the same continuous flow. The same quiet cycle. The same gentle rhythm that never truly stops. The stars above do not change their places quickly. But over long stretches of time, they shift as well. Just as everything does. Just as life does. The desert beyond the village rests in the same silence. Wide. Open. Unmoving. And yet shaped slowly by wind, by time, by forces that are too gradual to notice in a single moment. Everything here is shaped by slowness. By patience. By repetition. And within that repetition, there is a kind of peace. Not the kind that comes from stillness alone, but the kind that comes from knowing what will come next. From being part of something that does not rush or break. The people do not need to chase time. They move within it. As the river moves within its banks. As the stars move across the sky. As the day moves into night, and night into day again. The night continues. Deep. Quiet. Unchanging. And yet, always moving forward. Carrying everything gently toward the next moment, the next breath, the next morning that waits just beyond the darkness. The night remains calm, but something begins to change again. It is not visible at first. It is felt. A slight difference in the air. A quiet shift that moves across the land without sound. The deepest part of the night has passed. And now, slowly, gently, the world begins to move toward morning once more. The stars still fill the sky. They remain steady, distant, unchanged in their quiet glow. But there is a softness to them now, as if their light is slowly loosening its hold on the darkness. The village remains asleep. No one rises yet. No one speaks. The homes are still, holding the warmth of resting bodies within their walls. The woven mats lie undisturbed. The soft rhythm of breathing continues, steady and deep. A child turns slightly in sleep, then becomes still again. A hand shifts. A breath deepens. These are the only movements. Small. Unnoticed. Part of the quiet life that continues even in rest. Outside, the river flows as it always does. Its surface is dark, almost blending into the land itself. Only the faintest reflection of starlight reveals its slow, endless movement. The reeds along its banks stand quietly. Occasionally, a faint breeze touches them, creating a soft rustling that rises and fades without lingering. The desert beyond remains vast and silent. Its surface cool now, holding the memory of the sun deep beneath it. No footprints mark it in this moment. No sound crosses it. It simply exists. Still. Open. Endless. And yet, even within the stillness, the world is preparing. Very far away, at the edge of the horizon, something begins. It is not light yet. Only a thinning of darkness. A slight softening of the sky. The line between earth and sky becomes less sharp, less defined. It is the first quiet sign that night is beginning to release its hold. The stars near that edge appear dimmer. Not gone. Just more distant. More fragile. The air cools slightly once more. It carries a clarity that belongs only to this moment, the time just before dawn, when everything feels suspended between what has been and what is about to begin. In the village, sleep begins to shift again. Still deep. Still calm. But no longer untouched. The bodies resting within the homes respond in small ways. A man exhales more fully, his chest rising and falling with a slightly different rhythm. A woman turns her face toward the entrance of her home, where the faintest suggestion of early light will soon appear. The child who moved before now settles again, but closer to waking than before. These changes are quiet, barely noticeable. But they are part of the same pattern. The same gentle movement forward. The sky continues to soften. The darkness does not disappear. It loosens. It fades gradually, like a memory becoming less clear. A pale gray begins to form along the horizon. Very faint. Almost imagined. It stretches slowly, widening, becoming more certain with each passing moment. The river begins to reflect this change. Its surface remains dark, but there are hints now, soft variations in tone, subtle movements of light that were not there before. The reeds become slightly more visible. Their shapes returning from shadow. The wind remains light. The land remains still. But everything is shifting. The village remains asleep for a few moments longer, holding on to the final depth of night. But the edge of morning is close now. Closer than before. The gray light grows. Slowly. Patiently. Without interruption. The stars continue to fade, one by one, retreating into the brightness that has not yet fully arrived. The air feels different now. Less like night. Not yet like day. Something in between. A quiet crossing. And in this soft moment, this breath before dawn, the world prepares once more to begin again. Not suddenly. Not loudly. But in the same way it always does. Gently. Steadily. Without needing to be noticed. The gray along the horizon slowly deepens. It becomes more certain now, no longer just a faint suggestion, but a quiet presence stretching across the edge of the world. The darkness above it begins to lift, layer by layer, softening into lighter shades. The stars fade further. Some are still visible, but they seem distant now, like quiet memories rather than clear points of light. The night is ending. Not with a clear line, but with a gentle unfolding. The river reflects this change first. Its surface, once almost invisible, begins to show soft movement again. The faint gray light touches it, spreading across the water in thin, shifting bands. It does not shine yet. It glows. Quietly. Along the banks, the reeds become clearer in shape. Their outlines sharpen just enough to be seen. Their stillness remains, but their presence returns to the eye. The air feels cool and clean. There is a stillness in it that belongs only to this moment just before the day begins, when everything feels balanced between rest and movement. In the village, sleep begins to loosen. A man opens his eyes slowly. He does not move at first. He lies still, breathing, listening. There is a quiet awareness in him now, though he has not yet risen. The world around him is still calm, but something within it has shifted. Nearby, a woman turns gently, her hand brushing against the woven mat beneath her. Her eyes remain closed. But her body is no longer fully at rest. A child stirs. Not waking. But closer. The village is not awake yet. But it is no longer fully asleep. Outside, the gray light continues to grow. It spreads upward, blending softly into the sky above. The darkness retreats without resistance, making space for what is coming. The river carries more of this light now. Its movement becomes easier to see. Small ripples form and fade, catching the faint brightness as they pass. A bird calls in the distance. Soft. Single. Then silence again. The sound does not break the calm. It belongs to it. A signal, not of urgency, but of return. The first hint of color begins to appear along the horizon. Very faint. A pale warmth within the gray. Not yet gold. Not yet orange. Just a quiet suggestion of light that will soon grow stronger. The stars continue to disappear. One by one. Until only a few remain, barely visible against the softening sky. In the village, movement begins. A man sits up slowly. His body rises without effort. He places his feet on the ground and pauses there, feeling the coolness beneath them. He does not stand yet. He simply sits. Breathing. Listening. The day has not fully arrived. And so he waits within this moment. Another person shifts inside a nearby home. Cloth moves softly. A hand adjusts. A quiet exhale. These are the first signs of waking life. Small, gentle, unhurried. The air carries a faint sense of renewal now. Something fresh. Something beginning. The gray light grows stronger. The faint color at the horizon deepens slightly. The land begins to return fully from the night. The outlines of homes become clearer. The paths between them reappear. The shapes of people, still mostly at rest, begin to take form in the growing light. The river continues its endless motion, now reflecting the early morning sky more clearly. The reeds stand beside it, their details returning piece by piece. The breeze remains light. Barely there. The village stands on the edge of waking. Not yet in motion, but no longer still. The first true light is near. Just beyond this quiet moment. Just beyond this gentle pause. And as the sky continues to brighten, the day prepares to begin again just as it always has. Calm. Steady. Without interruption, the first true light arrives quietly. It spreads across the horizon in a soft band of pale gold, gently replacing the gray that came before it. The sky begins to open, revealing a clearer blue above, while the warmth of the sun still unseen makes itself known. The land responds slowly. The river brightens first. Its surface, once dim and muted, now carries a soft glow. The gentle ripples reflect the growing light, forming shifting patterns that move with quiet certainty. Along the banks, the reeds stand clearly now. Their colors return. Their shapes feel solid again. The darkness of night has fully loosened its hold. In the village, waking begins in earnest. A man who had been sitting now rises to his feet. His movements are slow, careful, and familiar. He steps outside, pausing just beyond the doorway of his home. He looks toward the horizon. The light is calm, welcoming. He takes a breath. And the day begins for him. Inside another home, a woman opens her eyes fully. She rests for a moment, then gently sits up, adjusting the cloth around her shoulders. Her movements are quiet, respectful of the stillness that remains. Nearby, a child wakes more suddenly. Not with noise, but with curiosity. He sits up, looking around as if the world has changed in the night. His eyes follow the light as it enters through the doorway. He does not speak. He simply watches. Outside, the village begins to move. Not quickly, but steadily. One person steps out. Then another. A few quiet footsteps cross the open spaces between homes. The ground is still cool from the night. The air feels fresh. Clean. A woman walks toward the river carrying a clay jar. Her steps follow the familiar path, worn smooth by countless mornings before this one. At the water's edge, she kneels. The river receives the jar as it always does. Softly. Without disturbance. She lifts it again, filled, and pauses for a moment. The light touches the surface of the water. The day is beginning. Back in the village, small fires are lit once more. Thin lines of smoke rise into the morning air, drifting upward in slow, quiet motion. The scent of baking bread begins to return, spreading gently through the space. The rhythm of life resumes. Children step into the open, their movements still soft, their voices low. They walk, they watch, they begin to play again in small and simple ways. One traces patterns in the dust. Another follows the shadow of a bird passing overhead. The games are quiet, but full. In the fields, the first workers begin to arrive. They carry their tools as they did the day before. And the day before that. Nothing has changed. And yet, everything feels new again. A man steps into the soil and bends down. He touches the earth lightly. It is cool beneath the surface. Ready. He begins his work. The oxen are brought forward once more. Their steady presence returns to the fields. The plow follows the ground, carving gentle lines into the soil. The sound is soft, familiar, a continuation of the same rhythm that never truly stopped. The sun rises higher, its edge now visible above the horizon. The light grows stronger, warmer, but still gentle. The village is fully awake now. Yet nothing feels rushed. Nothing feels urgent. Each movement flows naturally into the next. Water is carried. Food is prepared. Tools are lifted. Conversations begin in low, steady tones. Everything is connected. Everything is part of the same quiet cycle. The older woman takes her place once again beneath the shaded structure. She sits as she did before. Watching. Present. A witness to the endless return of the day. The river flows beside it all. Unchanged. Steady. Endless. And as the sun continues its slow rise into the morning sky, life in ancient Egypt begins again just as it always has. Calm. Simple. Unbroken. The morning settles fully now. The sun has risen higher, filling the land with steady light. The shadows are shorter again, the colors of the world clearer, more defined. The river moves as it always does, and the village lives within the familiar rhythm of another day. There is nothing dramatic in this moment. Nothing that asks for attention. Only continuation. Only life, unfolding in the same quiet pattern that has been here for as long as anyone can remember. The people of ancient Egypt return to their work, not as something new, but as something known. Fields are tended. Water is carried. Bread is made. Tools are used and set down again. Conversations rise and fade softly, like breath in the warm air. Every action fits into place. Every moment belongs. And nothing feels out of place in the way the day moves forward. The river continues its slow path beside everything. It does not change its direction. It does not hurry. It simply flows. As it has always done. The sun climbs higher, and the day becomes fuller. But even at its brightest, there is a sense of calm beneath everything. A quiet structure that holds the world together without needing to be seen. Life here is not built on urgency. It is built on rhythm. On repetition. On the gentle return of the same patterns, again and again, each time slightly different, but always familiar. Morning becomes afternoon. Afternoon becomes evening. Evening will become night. And night will become morning once more. There is no final moment. Only transition. Only movement within the cycle. The people do not need to think about this rhythm. They live inside it. They wake with it. They rest within it. They trust it, the way one trusts the river to continue flowing, or the sun to rise again after darkness. In the distance, the fields stretch wide under the open sky. The village remains close to the river. And between them, life continues in its quiet balance, steady, grounded, and deeply ordinary in the most peaceful way. The day moves forward. And it will always move forward. Not in a straight line. But in a circle that never truly ends. A circle of light and darkness. Work and rest. Sound and silence. Living and returning. And somewhere within that endless rhythm, the lives of ordinary people continue softly, quietly, and completely. not remembered for greatness, but carried gently by time itself. And so, as the light fills the land and the river flows on without pause, the story does not truly end. It only continues. As it always has. And as it always will.